Welcome back, everybody, to the Financial Advisors Workshop. This is the show where we interview financial advisors who are serving really good clients all over America. And we're very fortunate to have a very dynamic lady with us today, Liz Gillette. And Liz is in Maryland. Liz, welcome to the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Thank you, Brian. Thrilled to be here.
Excellent. So you're a CFP, Liz, and you've been at this for a little while, and there's a change in firm going on, so there's a lot to talk about. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and then how you got up to being a financial advisor?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. My journey was a little bit of a unique one, but maybe you can find some similarities to other people you've chatted with in the past. I started in the world of recruiting, hiring for local healthcare hospitals, and so kind of in a sales position, helping find the right people for the right jobs within hospitals. But behind the scenes, I was working my way through paying off about 90,000 of student loans, getting myself on my feet, figuring out life. I graduated in 2009, so clearly a lot of interesting things were happening in the market and globally at that time. So I just kind of had to go through this experience of getting myself in a good financial position, and I started quite a bit far behind. So I had to claw my way up to a little bit of financial security. And as I did that, I just discovered this incredible desire to help other people do something similar, right? Empower them to kind of change their financial lives. So I was in recruiting for 4 years. And so I've been in financial planning for 10 now. I switched over in 2013. And I've worked for 3 firms at this point, primarily dealing with younger clientele, their 30s and 40s.
Okay. What was your first firm?
Yeah, my first firm was Lifetime Wealth Planning and Management. There were 2 founders, and I was the third hire. They were making their way out of the industry, right? And so they were more of a lifestyle business, lifestyle practice. And so I was young and hungry and, wanted to get things moving and shaking. So I was there for 4 years, did my Series 65, my CFP during that time period. But it was a wonderful opportunity to kind of start as the client service representative and then the associate advisor and the lead advisor and get to know clients. And it was traditional AUM structure, right? We worked with clients that had about $1 million of assets. It was our minimum at the time. So I was there. Yeah, I was there for about 4.5 years.
Okay. And then now you have your own firm now that's changing, and then where after Lifetime?
Yeah, after Lifetime, I switched over to Main Street Financial Planning. So the reason for that was that's a a planning only firm. So no asset management, the traditional Garrett planning network model. And I just had this strong desire to be able to meet people with where they were at and not stop them at the door, with a minimum. And so that was a really great opportunity to get my feet wet. There was never a shortage of work to be done there. We were run from morning to night, servicing a lot of clients. So that was about 4 years there, maybe about 8 years worth of experience, given how many different clients, I was able to work with at that time. So that was the reason for the switch from Lifetime, was just to get to work with clients in a capacity where, I wasn't under that AUM structure. So they didn't have to have a minimum to be able to work with us. So that naturally brought in some, younger clients.
Yeah. Nice. But then you kind of went on your own to some extent then after that.
Yeah. So I went from Main Street, and then at 9 months pregnant with my 3rd child, I thought it'd be the perfect time to switch over. And I joined the firm that I'm at right now. So I'm at Bay Point Wealth. And the reason for this was I just kind of had an opportunity I would be crazy to turn down. So now I'm back under the traditional AUM structure, but we also have it set up in a way where there's an annual fee for younger clients just to be able to, continue working with us. And the reason for that was they said, hey, will you build out this side of our business? Will you continue working with these clients? We can support it, right? We can support the lower fee paying clients, but we want to build for the next generation of the firm. So it's kind of a win-win for me to be able to get back into that, structure and flexibility and more reasonable schedule, but also not losing sight of working with the clients that I really feel like I thrive in working with. So yeah, I
Right.
joined in June of 2022. So I've been, I guess, about a year and a half-ish with Bay Point.
Okay. So now the big news is that there's going to be a new firm coming up, and I see like an evolution that continually is moving as you get better and better and better at what you're doing, and it's really kind of neat to see.
Oh, thank you, Brian. That's very kind. Yeah, it's exciting as planners, right? It's very exciting to see the trajectory of where a career is going, where a firm is going. So yeah, we are founding a new firm. We'll open our doors in January, Curio Wealth. And so we're bringing a lot of the same team members with us, but ultimately the flexibility that we'll have now to curate exactly what we want and the client experience that we want. And we've just put tremendous amount of time and energy into starting from scratch and thinking about how our clients want to be serviced and how we can be different and how all of us can balance our busy work life and all of that. So it's an incredibly exciting time.
Great. So you've been able to step back and look at it and say, how would we do this if we started from scratch? How would we do that? Even though you haven't not started from scratch, you have a lot of good clients now. So what did you come up with? What kind of ideas? Or
Yeah. One of the biggest things, it's interesting being a part of a bigger firm. I had been, it was me and the two women at the first firm, and there was about six of us at my other firm. So now we're like a whopping 10 or 11, which in my books feels like a lot of people. So what we did was we came up with certain committees. We've got like the financial planning committee, but the reason why I think we stand out a little bit is we have a client experience team. And so I lead that team within our firm. We meet every single week without fail. And we are really working our way through, streamlining the onboarding process. And we're actually going through some training and motivational interviewing. That's something that has dramatically changed our firm. And every single member of our team has gone through that training. So we know how to communicate better, to ask open-ended questions, to stay curious, and to really stay true to who we are. So it helps us serve clients, but it helps make sure that our kind of team and corporate culture is the way that we have it right now. We've got a pretty exceptional company culture. And so that's one of my biggest goals as a leader, is to make sure we can keep that going. So yeah, we're just reevaluating, why do we do what we do? How often do we want to meet with clients? In what capacity do we want to meet with them, instead of just stopping at, the industry standard?
yeah. So you talk a lot about client experience, and that's really a big part of it. Like what motivates you to serve the client in a certain way. Could we talk a little bit more about that? What are the uniquenesses that you're doing in the client experience that's different than the standard wealth management type shop?
Yeah. I guess the biggest one that sticks out to me is we often go through that initial consultation, prospect meeting, whatever you want to call it. We often start and end that meeting, and we will have no idea how many assets the person sitting across from us has. That's a very deliberate approach that we take. The goal is we kind of ask a few questions in advance. And in the past, I've seen those questions as, how much do you make and how many assets do you hold? Instead, our questions are like, what does money mean to you? We're not unique in that those kind of questions have been asked, quite a bit. But I think in just knowing that, we have our minimum, our minimum annual fee. And if a client can, afford to pay that and they can work with us, then they come from all different backgrounds, all different careers, right? We have our doctors and our attorneys and our high-powered tech people. And then we've got our, government employees and teachers and, entrepreneurs and all different things. So I think that's got to be one of the ones that stands out to me, is we really want to make it clear that there's a path to working together if they're willing to more of fit in the mold of what makes someone a good client. And so it's almost the softer side of things. Like, do they have a desire to learn, to grow? We really want to educate them along the way. And if they have that commitment and that dedication, then, we're happy to work with them. And that's just a very good feeling, especially given my background and the financial duress I went through as a kid. I never wanted to be able to, close doors on someone, because everyone should get a chance to improve their life.
Sure. That's really exciting. But you have these different segments. Do you find it's challenging to deal with different segments of people, like government workers versus entrepreneurs? Are there things you do differently with the?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say there are. The biggest thing that I've noticed is planning with younger clients is it breaks just about any mold in your financial planning software. They've tried for a long time to figure out what the best path is and what software you can use. But ultimately, I feel like in the 10 years that I've been doing it, it's just a bunch of workarounds and creativity because the software wants you to save the same amount every year for decades, the same percentage. You'll just save 15% of your income from now till retirement. But we all know what happens in real life, right? You buy houses, you sell houses, you have babies, daycare is crushing people, you change jobs, you're out of work for 6 months. So, yeah, I think what really differentiates us is like, yes, there's that long-term plan and vision that we have to have as advisors take you out to age 100. How do you look? But most of our clients really value the like what's happening in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, right? That's how most people are kind of living their life. So we put a lot of emphasis into just making any improvement that we can over those small windows. And I would say the other piece that makes us a little bit different, I'm a big fan of signing permission slips. So what that looks like is when a client has been doing an incredible job, saving and putting money away for their kids, I could easily rattle off all of the wonderful things that they've been able to treat themselves to. And a lot of times you probably know this, but it takes convincing from the advisor. So one client that's an architect and she was kind of vying over this gorgeous piece of furniture that, cost $3,000. She talked about for years and years. And it's just like, you can do this. So I signed her little permission slip. They send me pictures of, the vacation that they took, even though they weren't sure whether they could afford it. So those are the real winning moments as an advisor is when you can, let them know, especially with younger clients, because the idea is, oh my God, your future is so uncertain, save everything, like save everything you possibly can. My approach is to make sure we're nice and conservative in how we're running, their overall plan. There's lots of what if scenarios built in, lots of worst case scenario. So that by the time I can say to them, I comfortably feel like this is your discretionary spending. I mean it. They know that it's something that they can do. So I think that balance is really what I'm looking for. And I think clients are often looking for is like, you want to keep coming back to the advisor if they recognize you want to enjoy your life a bit in the now, while you also get to prepare for the future.
Nice. And you talked about permission slips. Do you actually have a permission slip that you use?
There, I have in the past Googled this crazy little template, and I had a client who needed to do her dream, wanted to do her kitchen, and just kept finding herself like, I don't want to upgrade. I don't want to upgrade. I just want to stay base level. And so, like, I found a template online. I said, "Your dream kitchen." I electronically signed it, and yeah, sent it to her. So yeah, it's just kind of a fun little exercise that keeps people coming back because so much of financial planning is delaying gratification, right? And making sure, especially in
Yeah.
clients that have decades for compounding, like compounding is such a magical thing. And so it's just finding that balance where they can stay motivated because they distinctly remember those places where we're willing to negotiate. And I could tell them the places that they could, splurge a little bit.
Nice. So as a CFP, you bought a lot of different asset classes and put it together in a symphony of a portfolio, diversified portfolio. Um, what kinds of things are you recommending now?
Yeah.
In a
Yeah, in our portfolios, we don't work with single stocks, right? We work with it mostly ETFs, some mutual funds, pretty broad based. We have a tilt toward value, and a tilt towards a small cap. So overall, that's kind of the approach that we take. We're big fans of DFA, dimensional funds, and Avantis. And then we sprinkle in some iShares and some Vanguard and all of that. So yeah, that's traditionally the approach that we take with clients. You know the deal. Sometimes they come in with these other holdings and taxable accounts that you need to take your time and to divest from them. That certainly happens a lot. But ultimately, we're trying to get them onto that kind of long-term, lower fee, ideal performance sort of picture.
So we've had a pretty rough year in 22, and 23 has been kind of a reaction to 22. Now we have a second war. What do you think about the investing world right now?
I navigating the constant challenges, I feel like that always keeps us on our toes as advisors, right? I mean, everything from when bonds aren't performing and giving us what we need, and then cash people would say, my God, I can't earn more than 1% in cash. What am I going to do? And now cash is paying a lot, but is it really? Because inflation is so high. And so I think, ultimately we do try to use these as opportunities to remind our clients, stay the course and all of that, right? All of us advisors are singing a similar story. Ultimately, our plan is just to bring things back to the goals with our clients of where we stand in the market. Are we reaching the overall performance that we need? I always try to describe it as we're not trying to get the highest return possible. We're trying to get the best return given the amount of risk that you're willing to take. So yeah, it's an interesting time that we're living in. I'm well aware if I joined the industry in 2013, I did not go through '08 and '09 in this market. So I'm curious when the next big drop will be and how I'll be able to guide my clients through that. Yeah, but we try to, drip a pretty steady amount of information and resources so that when those rougher times come, clients aren't understanding their investments for the first time, right? Even when the markets are good, we're reminding them that they're not always good. And that sort of piece. The behavioral management is the
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah.
So we're going through these rocky markets. What is your service model like? How do you keep in touch with folks so they aren't freaking out when we have a bad market?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something we're evaluating as our client experience team. So we're working with a marketing firm and coming up with a brand strategy as a whole because some of us advisors would individually reach out to clients, right? And the worriers. I used to label them as nervous Nellies in my CRM system and just to make sure that I could proactively reach out to them. So when the markets are performing that way, traditionally what we do is we make sure we kind of shift what our marketing strategy was going to be. If 2 days from now an email was going to go out and it was going to talk about Roth conversions, instead we try to be really timely and know someone's opening that up concerned about what's happening in the market. And we make sure we get the 4 of our lead advisors at our firm. We have 4 lead advisors. And we get all of our heads together and kind of create a piece of content so that everyone can see it. And then I do have my clients that I know what you're going to say, Liz, but I just want to hear you say it. I say, okay, no problem. So I do like to pick up the phone and be a little bit proactive with them. Luckily, I don't, even though I label quite a few people as nervous Nellies, I have not experienced the ultimate loss, right? If you can't talk them off the edge and they make big decisions that they can't come back from. And part of that has to do with working with younger clients. It's a whole different ballgame when you're looking at someone who's in retirement or a few years away. I get to tell clients that every down market is a buying opportunity and they got decades to go. So certainly that makes my job in this a little bit easier.
So most financial advisors, Liz, have different types of clients and different sizes of clients. Tell us about your top 2 clients. Like, how did you get them, and how do you service them? Maybe even differently than you service other clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Client segmentation. So right now, I would say my top 2 clients, full disclosure, get service just like everybody else. And I'm not saying that like I'm super excited and proud of it. I'm saying it with full honesty of like, we're still figuring out that whole client segmentation side of things. So my clients, I find definitely work best once they've gone through the initial plan, right? And they're like ongoing and retainer clients. Every 6 months at this stage of life, a lot happens, in 6 months. And so I've done it a few different ways where I've met with clients on an annual basis or quarterly. And for obvious reasons, it too much time, felt like we're drinking out of a fire hose, trying to get on the same page. And every 90 days is a bit excessive when people have job and work and kids and life and all the travel and all of these things. So we meet every 6 months and we walk through. The biggest thing that we do is we make sure the first line on the agenda is, what's on your mind, but not in this BS. Oh, okay, that's cute. Let's go back to my agenda. In this motivational interviewing, training that we took, it reminded us that there's, 2 experts in the room. So you have to enter every
Right.
conversation knowing that they're the expert of their side and you're the expert of yours, and you have to honor autonomy. So Yeah, just sitting down with them, finding out what's on their mind, and walking them through what's most important to them. So right now it's open enrollment season for a lot of my clients. So we go through benefits and open enrollment, making sure we've got some end of year things buttoned up. But yeah, every 6 months getting together with that caveat that the big stuff is not going to happen perfectly in alignment with our calendar. So I always have like next day appointments available. I'm very, very careful with my calendar so that when the real life stuff hits, we just stop what we're doing, have a meeting, and then bump the next one 6 months from then. So
Nice.
that's the way that we found it to work. But yeah, the client segmentation piece, we got to work that out a bit more. Right now, everyone's getting the best of me. I don't know, not or the worst of me, right? Depending on if I'm doing an okay job. So yeah, we certainly have to figure that out. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, it sounds like this new firm gives you a new lease on life to do that.
Mhm.
Uh, Great. So we've been through some tough times in every decade. You've been at it about a decade now. What was the worst year you had in the business,
Wow.
and why? And then what different things did you do to help your client?
Okay, so the worst year I had was not 2020, ironically. The worst year I had was 2021. The reason for that was just beyond capacity. At that second firm at Main Street, the amount of client work was so excessive. We had a 5 week delay in our calendar. Like our calendar was backed out 5 weeks for a client to get a meeting. And the whole point of having a financial advisor is being able to access them when you want to access them. So I would actually define my worst year, especially, working for a period of time that we weren't, in that AUM model, was just simply trying to do the right thing and service clients, but struggling and struggling with the profitability of that firm. And the only way to increase profitability was to serve more people. So we reevaluated every efficiency in our company, right? Like every single one, every tool, every this and Calendly and everything. But at the end of the day, the math just wasn't adding up of the profitability. We had a lot of people grandfathered in. I mean, because again, it wasn't an AUM structure. They're paying $2,000 a year and they have a 2 million in assets, but they had been grandfathered in and they would get advice just as much as other people. So that was, I would refer to that as my hardest year for that reason. And then walking people through it, so it's a two-part answer. So I'd say 2020 was the most challenging, overwhelming year for my clients. Big pieces of it of people obviously losing their jobs and feeling that lack of security. When we run the financial plan, we actually run two model scenarios for every client, like an optimistic and a pessimistic, Ryan. And the only saving grace for 2020 was that my clients had already seen something worse than the Great Depression. Like that's what happens in plan B, pessimistic of our plan. So I was able to pull out the graphs and say, hey, look, as scary, I'm not saying I predicted a pandemic, but as scary as all of this is, it's actually not as bad as what we've modeled over here on this side. So, but the reality for my families were like people losing daycare, women dropping out of the workforce, other people losing their employment, not sure what was going to happen with government shutdowns. I mean, so yeah, that it really challenged me as an advisor because I was dealing with my own thing, two young kids at home, and my husband works full time too. So it was, yeah, that was a tough one. 2020 was a tough one for clients, and so it just it yeah took a lot out of me. Maybe that's why 2021 was such a hard year, right? Because I was still drained from 2020.
And you talked a little bit about your family. How do you balance your family and you're a mother, and you want to do a good job there? How do you balance all that with this incredibly intense business, the financial advisory business?
I have all the answers. Um, so yes, I like to think that I have a very full life. I'm even careful about the word busy. So I live a very full life. I got a 6'4" and a 1-year-old. My dad lives with us. So I have the aging parent sandwich generation. I have four siblings and I'm the new matriarch of our family because we lost my mother in 2021. So I have a lot of responsibilities on the family front in addition to my own family. How do I balance it? I am a big fan of having things planned out as well as you can. So I've got, my little schedule and planner that keeps me on task. My husband and I chat every Sunday night at 8 o'clock and just kind of go through the next 2 weeks ahead. And I do have an incredible partner. So that certainly, helps us figure out every step. But I have to say, I try to recognize it as each component, like strengthens the other. I get so much out of work and then I get
Yeah.
so much out of getting to be a mom. And so I try to look at it. I am obnoxiously optimistic. This is not just because we're in an interview. This is just how I was born. So I just try to look at it from the positive side of like, it's a very full life. I've got like a lot of things going on. But yeah, planning things out is my biggest tool, talking to my partner, making sure he's balancing the load where he can. Um, yeah. And then, there's days where you're like, what is going on?
You're
And
overwhelmed.
yeah, you're super overwhelmed, then you get through it, and then the next day is a new day, and, like, you figure it out, but I'm pursuing every passion. Everything I'm passionate about, I'm getting to pursue, so, like, that's a pretty damn good position to be in.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, you have a very unique position. There are many women in financial careers now, and there weren't years ago. But what kind of advantages does it give you to be a woman in this financial advisory business? What do you think?
Yeah. Probably a lot of the stuff they're always telling us at these, conferences, right? So, intuition, very empathetic. I take pride in like reading people, right? And so I think so much of financial advising, being able to step in and pay attention to the non-financial partner, the one who's kind of quiet in the meeting and not really engaging, making sure their needs are met. I think that's the biggest thing. So I work with dual income couples that have like caretaking responsibilities in their 30s and 40s. And I really pride myself on making sure that I'm paying a lot of attention, maybe not to the one who's always doing all the talking, but paying attention to both people and making sure their needs are met. So yeah, as a woman, maybe that whole listening component of it and just being a bit intuitive about all the emotional aspects of money. I really think that there's so much to it. Having experienced like financial trauma and the way it disturbed relationships. I mean, just to see it all firsthand, I really that's like something that will never leave me. It'll stay with me forever. And so I think I can service clients better because having been on that side. I didn't have to read about it in a book. I know what like financial trauma can do to a couple and a marriage and a family and all of that.
Nice. Yes. So, Liz, we're coming near the end of our discussion today, but tell me what you think there are trends that you see. I noticed you mentioned small caps. That's interesting that you do that, and that's a kind of not something you probably do all the time. I would suspect, right? So what are the trends you see that lead you to make the decisions you're making now? What trends do you see over the next few years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say at this point, I mean, we are sticking with the value investing. Like that piece stands out to me too. And certainly value has had its share of, down years and all of that. And so, our biggest thing at this point is just trying to stick with that overall game plan and not have clients teeter from it and read about how growth is doing so specifically well in this tech area, excelling and why shouldn't I jump on that bandwagon? So as far as trends moving forward, yeah, I don't know, Brian. That's that we are much more focused on the planning side of things, and then we kind of stick to our overall investment strategy. I wouldn't say we're 100% passive, but I don't have a good answer for that. Like what happens next with trends? I really don't. I'm not going to BS you and give you an answer. I don't know where it lands next, but I know that we have like confidence in this overall strategy, and it's easier to get clients to buy in rather than trying to be like too predictive with it because that's a dangerous zone, being too
Okay, so it's more steady and more reactive, more
predictive.
strategic. Okay, very good.
Exactly, exactly. That's why I feel like it would be so counterintuitive to even have an answer for, I got some guesses, but to even have an answer for you would almost go against what we tell our clients to do, which is to, kind of take that more passive approach and collect the returns of the market rather than beat the market and timing and stay ahead and all of that. So yeah, I think my honest to God answer is just like, yeah, we're focused more on maintaining our overall structure so that we don't lose sight of it as the market shifts. You know?
Well, great. Well, so Liz, about 300 financial advisors will probably see this video once it's released over the first couple of months, and maybe 1,000 over the next year. So imagine that you're in a conference room, and all those people are there right now, and you're here to give them a message about the industry. What would you tell your colleagues if you were in front of 1,000 people in a conference room right now, or a big auditorium? What would you tell them?
Oh, heck yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Okay. So I would tell them, don't sleep on the clients who are building an earning phase of their life. Like, don't sleep on them. They are making big moves. They are saving significant sums of money. It really helps with the overall, obviously, portfolio as all of us advisors. Many of our advisors are focusing on retirees who are drawing down. And I understand that the dollars don't look like they're there for the younger clients, but there's just so much value. There's so much joy in working with them, and there's a lot of value, and we found a way to make it profitable. And so don't sleep on the people who are building that phase of their life.
That's your growth too, isn't it? That's your
Yeah.
growth. Their
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah. It's so beautiful to be able to go through it together. And yeah, so absolutely. And I can only imagine what decades worth of financial advice, can do for someone's life. Right. So it's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Very powerful. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I think we'll leave it there, Liz. And we look forward to catching up with you later on down the road. And thanks for being with us today in the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Pleasure's all mine.
Thanks. Thanks everybody for being with us. Again, we'll be back again with another great interview with another superb financial advisor like Liz, and here's some great insights. And so we can all get better at what we're doing and learn from each other. So we'll leave it there, everybody. Over and out for this Financial Advisors Workshop episode. Back soon.